All right, welcome to the first go at this video lecture thing. So we'll see, where I could put in different times to stop, but so that I don't have to make up another video. If it turns out that I can't put stops in, I'll just say to you, why don't you go ahead and pause this and go do the other stuff, and we'll see how that goes. Okay, so at the end of the last class, we talked about sort of like an introspective view of your thought process, right? As you work through any sort of problems, what do you think happens in your brain? So for this next little step, I would like you to get a partner and hit pause on this guy. So hear me out first, don't hit pause yet. So what I want you to do is go into the online classroom, the Blackboard, and in in-class supplements, you are going to find a whole bunch of things. What I want you to look at first are the puzzle series. So with you and your partner, you're going to decide which person is going to be the problem solver and which person is going to be the observer. So you're going to flip-flop, so everybody will get a chance. Don't be sad if you're missing out. So for the first part, the problem solver is going to solve puzzle 1. So as you work through this, as the problem solver, you are solving the problem. As the observer, I want you to take notes of any steps that you recognize, any strategies, decisions that they made. So as the person that's solving the problem, talk out your thought process as much as you can out loud, so that the person observing can see or hear, I guess, what you're doing. Do not interfere if you're the observer. Do not be like, that's wrong, or anything. Don't give any help. You are merely an observer. You are invisible. So you're going to do that. When you get done with that, you're going to go and flip-flop. Observer becomes the problem solver becomes the observer, and you are going to tackle problem number 2. Okay. After you do that, well, actually, let's do that. Go ahead, do that. Hit the pause button. I don't know if it's there. I just pause. And then come on back. I'll wait. You back? Okay. So now what I want you to do is talk to each other. I know, it's crazy. Go ahead and discuss with each other what was observed versus, prior to this course, coming in thinking, what do I do? Talk about the different interactions and sort of how they might go against what you thought that you did. Then when you are done with that, go ahead and try puzzle 3. Just both of you go at it, see how you do. Pause again. Boop. Okay, we're back. So I hope you had a good discussion. I hope it was more than like 3 seconds. And let's talk about first the answers that went along with it. So the answer key for puzzle 1, A, purple, B, green, C, blue, D, yellow, and E, red. Okay. I think puzzle 2 is the number 1. So to solve it, you have to add the next odd and then double it. So it is 3 and 8. So 3 plus 1 is 4 times 2 equals 8. So then 8 plus 3, which would be the next odd number, equals 11 times 2 is 22. So for 22 plus 5 is 27 times 2. 54 should be your answer. Okay, and then the next one with the guards question. What you should ask, if I were to ask the other guard which door leads to the treasure, what would they say? So when you ask this question, guard 1, the truth person, would say, well, he would know that line will point you to the wrong door. Guard 1 will point you to the room of doom. And G2, the liar, will point you to the correct door, but he lies. So he will point you to the door of doom, which means both of them will point you to the door of doom. Therefore, go to the other one. Avoid the room of doom. All right, so let's talk about what you just did, right? So when you approach the problem, let's talk about what was observed. There are cognitive processes that you might have been able to observe. How is their attention, their memory, their perception, language, problem solving, thought, communication, analysis. So those are a lot of the cognitive processes that come into play when we're problem solving. Then there are other things that might add or retract from your ability to solve it. Your memory. How did your memory play a role in it? Something called heuristics. Did they come into it? Things that you have prior knowledge of that you're able to apply, right? Like maybe you heard a similar thing to that guard story before. Maybe you've had experience with those logic puzzles. And how did you then, as the observer or the solver, add insight to this cognitive process? Did it help you out at all to understand what's going on inside your brain? So with that comes the idea that started in 1800s, right? The first start of it, that they're like, you can't study the mind because A, it's not possible for the mind to study itself. Think about how hard it was for you to understand your problem solving techniques in that last exercise. And the properties of the mind cannot be measured. Tell me how much attention you have right now on a scale of 1 to 100. Gosh darn, I don't know. You're either paying attention or not paying attention. Sometimes you might have a little bit of attention, you're listening, but you're doing something else. So the idea is that it is very difficult to be measured. So one of the first ways that the idea was to measure things was a reaction test, or the idea of reaction time, right? So this Franco-Stonders in 1868 came up with this idea that the way to study the mind is through reaction testing. So there's two different kind of reaction testing. One is the very basic one, a simple reaction test, where a button gets pushed when a light goes on. Okay, so should we demonstrate? All right. So when I raise my hand, I want you to bang on your desk. I hope you're not in the library. You shouldn't be in the library. But if you're in the library, don't bang on the desk, just tap it gently. Okay? So when, how'd you react? Did I get you? All right. So when my hand goes up, I'm going to do it now. How quickly do you bang on the desk? That is your reaction time, right? So that's very simple. Rudimentary reaction time. But now let's make it a little bit more difficult. We have choice reaction, right? So now when I give a different cue, you are going to give a different action. So let's say when a left light blinks or blinks a certain color, that's going to determine the button that you push. Do you push the right button? Do you push the left button? Okay, if I raise my right hand, you have to bark. If I raise my left hand, you have to meow like a kitten. Okay? So let's test it out. Reaction time. Did you meow? Good. Meow again. Excellent. Good. So the time between the stimulus, the hand raise, and your reaction is your reaction time. So, quick question, is it going to be quicker or slower for the choice reaction? What do we think? I'll give you a second. Think about it. Shouldn't be that hard. Right. You're right. It is going to be slower when you have a choice because now you have to make a decision. Decisions are hard. Every day, decisions. So now, let's test out your reaction time. How fast do you think you are? How reactionable? Inside the course, I did a link to an app. I found it on Apple, because I have an Apple, and when we would do this in class, I used my phone. But hopefully either you have an Apple or someone you know has an Apple, or if not, maybe you could find it in the Google Play Store, but it is called Reaction Time Pro. So in that app, there are, let me pull up all the different, there we go. So there are a couple different tasks. There's race lights, there's Whack-A-Dot, there's color change, and roller drop. Roller drop dig and roller drop live. You are going to do 3 trials of each of those. So 3 trials of race lights, 3 trials of Whack-A-Dot, and you're going to record the score. So there's a link underneath the one that you are clicking for the app, and that's going to be where you record your score. So I already have it all set up, and it's going to have your name, and you put your time underneath it, okay? And then on the far side, after K column, it's going to add it up for you. Don't do anything there. It's already set up. And that will populate a little graph, so we could see how you guys did on it. I think that'll be fun. So let's hit pause, boop, and then you go do that, and then come on back, and we'll chat about how it went. Go for it. I'll wait again. All right, so how'd it go? I can't tell yet because it's the future, but I will go in now, check out your times on everything. So this is just a really cool test for reaction time. So another part, so going from reaction time, do you think that that really tells you what's going on in your cognitive component? It doesn't. It's just one part of it. So they came up with Winholm Wundt put up with another concept of analytical introspection. Analytical introspection. So this is what I asked you to do between classes. Tell me about how you solve problems. That is your analytical introspection. So anytime that, you know, you're deep in thought and someone says, what are you doing? Analytical introspection is what you could say to them and sound nerdy. All right, so what I want you to do is go back into Blackboard, and under those in-class supplements, there's something called the Paired Associations Part 1. What I want you to do is go through that. 30 seconds, give yourself. 30 seconds, that's it. Set a timer, 30 seconds to memorize that list, okay? Then I want you to take time out. 2 minutes, go have a bathroom break, go get a drink, whatever it is. Time it out, 2 minutes. And then I want you to open up Paired Associations Part 2, and you have 2 minutes to see how many words you can recall. Because they're paired up, tell the word that went with it, make a little note, and we'll see how you did. So pause it again. Remember, 30 seconds for the part 1 to memorize. Okay, do you need to write this down? 30 seconds, part 1, memorize. Take a 2-minute break, dance, eat something, don't care. Go back to part 2 and see how well you did on it. See how many match up. Maybe I will put a little sheet on just to see how we do. I'll do that. I'll put a little tab. You tell me how many you remembered. And then that's it. So pause, go, come back with all the knowledge. Bye. We're back. All right. So how'd you do? Did you kick butt? All right. So the idea is having that association should actually impact things. So introspection, right? This analytic introspection that we talked about, it's influenced by a couple things. One of the first things is something you just demonstrated, which is called semantic relatedness. So when things are related, apple, tree, you're going to be able to remember it better than things that have less associations. So let's see. All of those things that were given in that list had some sort of semantic relatedness. Now, if those things were something like tree, hat, shoe, dog, right? You actually probably would not be as successful. So that's going to come into play. Frequency and familiarity. What if all of those words were in German? Do you think you'd be as successful? No, probably not, because you're not familiar with those words. Or say those were words out of a medical textbook. Eek, right? But say all those words were related to childhood education. Dang, you're nailing that, right? The length and the complexity. How long are those words? Shorter, easier. Imagery, can you create an image in your head to go along with those? Apple tree, easy enough. There's an apple tree, right? The cognitive load. Are there things going around you that are distracting you? That's going to impact it. Think about that when you're studying. Encoding strategies. What strategies do you have to store that into your bank? Right? We're going to get into memory in a couple chapters, and encoding strategies is going to be a huge thing. Serial position effect. There's something called primacy or regency, and we're going to get into that later on. Sort of at the beginning of the list, you're going to remember, and at the end of the list, you're going to remember. But these in the middle get a little foggy. And the individual differences from them. So that was the next step in understanding our cognition. The next idea is to understand some of the theorists behind it, some of the big people that were in the world of studying cognition. Our boy Watson, he was a behaviorist, and he looked at little Albert in classical conditioning. This was all inspired by Pavlov, who we should be familiar with, because every time that bell rang, that dog salivated. But then Watson and this behaviorist group said that the mind is irrelevant. What happens up here is irrelevant. The observation of behavior is all that matters. So going back to that first puzzle solving thing that we had, according to them, how you did it on the surface of solving that is all that matters. What do we think? So then we move on to Skinner, who had operant conditioning with positive, negative reinforcements. Those can get very confused. Positive reinforcements, all right? Touch your nose. Go ahead, touch it right now. Yes, touched it, nailed it, you did it. That's positive reinforcement. Negative reinforcement, same idea. I'm gonna need you to touch your nose, okay? So first, prior to you touching your nose, I'm gonna do this. Annoying, right? But when you touch your nose, I stop the noise. So this is where positive and negative reinforcement gets confused. So negative reinforcement is not that I'm doing something negative for your bad behavior. That's punishment, right? What it is I have a negative stimuli going, and I remove that stimuli when you act accordingly. My dad likes to tell the story when he was in Catholic school. He used to have to kneel on a ruler until he correctly said the prayers in Latin. That is an example of negative reinforcement, okay? Once he finished saying the prayers correctly in Latin, he was able to unkneel from the ruler. I would suggest as future educators, don't do that. Don't do that. Okay, next was Tolman. He came up with the behaviorist. He was a behaviorist, but he actually brought in cognitive psychology, because you can use behavior to infer the processes, but it doesn't actually depict it. Then came the idea of the brain as the computer, which you could read about. It's pretty self-explanatory. Let's see. At this point, I'd say that it's a good idea for you to read within the Blackboard course the You Are Not So Smart on the Priming. That is just a really good read and super helpful, and will help you set you up as you go through the rest of the course. Let's see. There was another one that was in here. Oh, okay. So, when we look and talk about cognitive behavior and how difficult it is to study without the equipment that we have available to us now, right? Like the fMRIs and stuff like that. Think about the crazy things that your minds do on a regular basis. I know that my mind has a way of going from, you know, one stimuli and it traces down, you know, a different path. So let's say I hear my dog bark at the cat, right? And then that makes me think how my mom really does not like cats. And then from my mom, I'm thinking, oh, actually, she told me she was going to make lasagna today. So now I'm a little bit hungry. And then I was like, oh, they made lasagna on that one cooking show with the, you know, Alex versus the world. And then Alex is also on, she's my least favorite chef on the Cooking Network, just so clear. See? Just went on a tangent. And then I think about Amber recently passed away, who likes to eat at the Lewis Oyster Shop, or used to, and that I really enjoyed eating there too. So that is how our brains work. So tell me how, by you watching my behaviors, you could possibly understand what's going on in my brain. I don't understand it. How can you understand it? So there has to be a better way. Plus, take into consideration all the things we do on autopilot, right? The times that you drive and you're like, holy cow, how did I get to point A? I don't even remember it. Just things that we do on a subconscious level. Where are your feet right now? Think about them. Feel them. Were you thinking about them before? Do you know how they were positioned? Like, they were there, but you weren't thinking about them. What about the placement of your tongue in your mouth? Now you're thinking about it, and now it seems too big for your mouth, and you're like, what do I do with my tongue in my mouth without being weird, right? These are all, how could we study this? That's ridiculous. The idea that smells influence us, right? Have you ever walked into a place and just transported back somewhere else? Those are just all the things that make the brain so amazing and, you know, just impossible to study from an external perspective. We're going to do our best in this course to figure out the different, you know, ways that we can look at the different components of it. But in terms of really studying it, that's a whole thing. That is a whole thing. So, I'll just end with the idea of you guys thinking about bias and how that impacts. I shared with you that You Are Not So Smart book, and with that, I would like you to just start glancing through the different topics just to see what, you know, you might find interesting or intriguing or anything like that. Think that's it for today. I'm going to test out putting this onto that other software, see if we could throw in some interactive components, and I will try to put up a sheet so I could see how well you did on that memory recall. Hope this works. Hope you stay awake through all this, and I will see you in the next class.